to 19. Burglaries have jumped from 7 last year at this time to 20. Here's the big one, theft. We had 39 at this time last year, 120 this year. And we had motor vehicle thefts at this time last year, we had 0. Now we've had 19 this year. Frauds have gone from 5 up to 20. Destruction of property, vandalism went from 13 last year at this point to 49. And overall, our NIBRS calls, which are these offenses you see up above, have gone from 99 to 274. So those are reportable offenses. And that's not, this block is not everything we respond to. These are just the ones that get reported nationally that we keep track of. And you will notice that, not by coincidence, our drugs and narcotics offense, we had 12 at this point last year before the change, and it's now down to 1. So again, we have to have 3 instances of possession before we can even, and we have to refer them to services before we can even send it into the prosecutor for charging, unless it is somebody is dealing. But strict possession is not currently illegal for any narcotic. So you'll see that number went way down. Motor vehicle collisions are up by about 10. DUI citations, we had 4 at this time last year. We've had 8 so far this year. So we're seeing more impaired drivers on the road, and we're running about 130 more actual reports this time than we were at this time last year. Another thing that I'm noticing, just anecdotally, we get what's called a shift brief after every shift. Tells us kind of the highlights that we grab these calls from, and I'm seeing more and more calls involving firearms. Whether we've had several involving replica firearms. One was a flare gun, and we've had actual firearms. It just seems like we're getting more and more calls involving firearms. So the officers are definitely out there earning their money. So that's the report on the statistics and the highlights for the call for service. Does anybody have any questions on that piece of it?
I do have one on your report here.
Something's wrong. I blame Haley.
No, you guys are already working with mental health officers, or is that East Pierce's? Or is that
not yet.
else?
No,
okay.
It's countywide. We have co-responders, they call them. So they do venture out to East Pierce County quite a bit, and they have proven to be fairly helpful when we can get them out here. And they have been available more than I have anticipated. So.
Yeah, because I saw on this one here that you had, I guess I didn't know until that's what he said, but the MH mental health professional.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I saw that on a couple of them.
I don't believe that was East Pierce. I know East Pierce is always on these types of calls with us, because if it's an involuntary, typically they transfer it for us. So they're usually there. Okay. It's kind of a co-response, and we've added the mental health professionals to that. And John, what shift is your person? I'm assuming day shift,
days, yeah.
Weekdays. Yeah. And so a lot of these, as you can imagine, happen after hours. That's when we rely on co-responders from the county to assist us.
Okay. You guys have any questions for Chief?
Yeah, I think it's kind of the same question, but now it might be a different answer. Just in regards to the legislature being out of session, is there anything that we can do or we can empower citizens to do?
I think education is the big thing. There was some movement made, a lot of good movement made this last legislative, like defining force, clarifying when we can use force for involuntary treatments and things like that.
Yeah.
Identifying 50 caliber, making sure that it was only 50 caliber rifles that we can't have, but still the pursuit is very problematic.
Yeah, I saw it in one of the incidents.
We've probably, I would say 3 or 4 a week we have where people don't stop for us.
They just drive off.
And I think I talked about this last week at the town hall where somebody had a stolen car, did a shoplifted AutoZone and came right down 410 about 3:45 about this time in the afternoon. So it was pretty busy, and I actually was up on there trying to intercept it, and it split cars. I mean, it was bumper to bumper. Nobody's moving, and made their own center lane and hit another car. Nobody was injured. but they drove that way all the way until they could, and luckily they only hit one car and nobody was injured until they could get a lane to go. And there's nothing we can do.
Well, even though the legislature's out of session, I just wonder if there's a way where if enough people did something, in contacting the legislature.
It's always good to do that, but I mean, they're not going to call a special session, and that's the only way we can make any changes right now. And I will tell you that our representatives, both our representatives and our senator, are the tip of the spear for making these changes to bring it back. So it needs to be up north, that we need to have the legislatures from that area hear the impacts to the victims. Last week I spoke at the Communities for Families about the same issue, about that the victims are the ones that are being lost in this. It seems that the legislature has kind of discounted the victims of crime, and that's unfortunate, but it's one of the things that law enforcement had identified that could potentially happen with the legislation. That's exactly what has happened.
Okay.
So, anything we can do to educate. A lot of time our citizens aren't aware of this. When I talked at the Communities for Families last week, I would say the majority of the people, which I would say are very involved in the community, were not aware of these changes that took place in 2021.
Okay.
So, I know the criminals are very aware of them.
Okay.
I do have some FYI items if you want me to cover now or at the end.
Yeah, that's
your
good.
choice. Okay, I did want to let you know that Officer Mike Gould has started with us. I think I might have covered that before. He's a lateral from King County. I know your husband's familiar with him. Very lucky to have him, a graduate of Bonney Lake High School, and a great addition to the force. Detective Torgerson retired the 31st of March. So now we have one vacancy, and we're in the process of trying to fill that. I'm doing chief's interviews with top 2 candidates. I think we have another lateral from King County and one from Algona. So I got one interview tomorrow and one on Thursday, and then we have a Renton lateral that wants to do a ride along with us. So we'll probably wait until that person has decided if they're going to apply or not, and then see. Usually civil service rules give me the choice of 3 of the top candidates, and so far I only have 2. So if we can hold another process, if we get another applicant, we'll do that, and hopefully we can get that filled. It does take time, so once we identify somebody, the background process takes a while. I mean, we have to vet them and make sure they're the right person for this community, but hopefully by optimistically early July that we could get them on. So we're going to be running a body short for a few months, and a part of that is to the buyout of sick leave and vacation of the officers that just retired was pretty substantial, to the tune of about $100,000. So we try to drag that vacancy a while to make up some of that cost, so we're not overspent. So that's we're trying to be mindful of the budget as well. The Pierce County Security next month we'll bring a contract to you for our annual contract with them to work Allen York Park, the beach area, to enforce the capacity limits and do voluntary bag checks and things like that, and kind of help manage things down there for us. We've had great success the past 2 years, and we've noticed that families are starting to come back and enjoy the park. So we'd like to bring that forward next month. We have got a tentative plan for the park, which we can provide the capacity. We're going to start out at 300, and that's up. It was during COVID, it was 200 and 250. So we'll bring it up to 300, and then we consider raising it on the hot days, just depending on what's going on. Last year, a couple times we upped it quite a bit just because there were so many people standing across the street in the queue up line that it just didn't make sense. So we just let them in. And again, I think the voluntary bag checks have really deterred a lot of the people bringing in alcohol and the over imbibing in alcohol, and just and them walking through there and reporting that to us if they see people using alcohol has really curbed a lot of the activity that has happened there. So I'll be bringing that to you next month.
Great.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Gwendolyn, you have anything?
Well, I was wanting to ask about the boat launch, but that's probably for open discussion.
Yeah, I think we all got something from Debbie earlier. Yeah.
Oh, the
ordinance.
Yeah, the signage for it. So, it's not on the agenda, but yeah, we do have something on it.
So open discussion then?
Yeah, I'll send it back over to Chief after, as business item number 2.
Sounds good.
So that takes us down to business item number 1, AB 2259, Resolution 2036, out-of-state travel. Chief?
This is a request of the council to authorize the chief and 2 assistant chiefs to attend the International Association of Chiefs of Police Conference in October in Dallas. Typically, we've had this in our budget, but due to COVID, we were not allowed to put any out-of-state travel requests. So that's why I'm coming to council to see if you would approve our attendance at this conference. It's one of the best conferences. The training is incredible. As you can imagine, it's from all over the world. You receive this training, and it's about 3.5 days of training, and it's also a pretty good vendor show. So you get to bring back a lot of ideas and a lot of things to the department. And the total expenditure with airfare and hotel and everything is right around $4,500. And we have about 16,000 in that line for travel. So,
And that's for the 3 of you?
yes,
Yeah.
all 3 to attend, and it's 4 days. We'd arrive on the 14th, and the conference is the 15th through the 18th, and fly back on the 18th.
Okay, I see. The money is already allocated. It's just the request part that was not part of the
Correct,
budget.
yeah. The budget money was there. It wasn't specifically authorized by council, which the ordinance says that we have to have out of state. It's
Okay,
not part of the budget authorized by council. So that's why I'm coming to council to request permission for us to attend that.
okay.
I have no problem with that going on
Yeah,
consent.
I have no problem as well.
Amy?
I'm good.
You're good?
Yes.
Okay.
I agree.
What is your succession plan when all 3 chiefs are gone?
Who's in charge?
Yeah.
It usually it's the senior sergeant, so that will be Sasaki or Maris, depending on who's working
Okay,
that time. So
Okay.
yeah, it will be one of them, and then usually we have, if another surrounding chief, like if Kurt, I think, is going to go, but Sumner's chief doesn't typically go. So
okay.
we ask for coverage from command staff from either Puyallup or Sumner to help cover if we're gone.
You realize that's going to be the worst week of
Thanks.
meeting. I mean, that's just
Well,
how it
those-
works, right?
I know what-
dates?
I know what happened
October
when I
15th
went to
to the
Hawaii
18th,
last summer, so I don't
I
want
think,
to
yeah.
redo that.
All right. So we'll go to, it's not on here, so we'll move a new item 2 on here, which is the resolution number D2218 ordinance. This is amending the Bonney Lake Municipal Code to restricted parking in city parking lots.
Right, this is with regards to the boat trailer parking. Since we don't have any place designated for boat trailer parking, in order for us to enforce that, we need to amend the ordinance. And by this language that we are proposing, we wouldn't have to come back next year and amend it again when we do have boat trailer parking. It just says that if it's signed that you can't park there, then we can enforce it. So that way, anything that is signed, no boat trailer parking, it can be enforced. So
Okay.
this will allow us to do that. Thank you, Dina, for working through the language on that. But this kind of puts everything together to help us enforce now and in the future any boat trailer parking that finds its way into one of the lots. And I know Ryan is working on the signage right now. We got the language figured out for that. So once we get that and get the locks installed, we'll be able to issue the launch pass.
Okay. I have no problem with that being on consent.
It is.
It is on, okay. I was trying to
Okay.
look at the revised one, but the numbers are all out of whack on it now. Okay.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, Sadie said she put it on the consent.
Okay.
yeah, basically this first part, A and C are the same, B is different.
Okay. Signage. Okay. You guys have any issues with it being on consent as noted? Okay. All right. So now
Thank you.
we'll slide on to the approval of the March 8th minutes. We have a motion to approve as written.
Are we supposed to say aye?
Yeah.
Motion.
Okay.
Second. Yeah,
Okay. All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. All right. Now we'll slide into open discussion.
Okay, I have a
Councilmember.
question.
All right. Fullerton.
I just got a text message from a friend, and it's showing that the website is saying that, but it's saying that the website is saying that annual resident boat launch pass sales are currently suspended. Please watch the city website for updates. Now, this was 6 hours ago that this was updated, that this was put on there, and some people had purchased some boat launch
We have
passes
2 that
already.
we've sold so far.
Yeah.
This was prior to.
So then this just got put on the website
No,
today.
it's
It
been on
wasn't?
there for 6 weeks. When we
Oh.
decided, our very first time we came to council,
Okay.
it was changed back then. So
Okay.
it's suspended until we have everything that's in place and ready to go. Because right now, if we sell them a launch pass, we don't know what the gate code's going to be or the lock code's going to be. So then we'd have to get back in touch with them, give them a lock code. So we're trying to do this with one touch, where we'll have instructions for them with the gate code with their launch pass.
Okay.
So when all the stuff, when the ordinance gets passed, when the signage is in place, when the locks are in place, then we'll start selling the passes.
Okay.
And we're hoping to do that. It just depends on when we can get the signs. It's honestly what we're waiting on.
Okay. And then,
Excuse me,
yeah.
Chair.
Yeah.
Can I just make a comment?
Yeah.
If you look at your site, it's inconsistent, because what it says is that the Ellen York the park launch is open. The Bonney Lake residents interested in purchasing a pass can submit an application online or by mail.
Which
And
part,
then later, in another spot, it says they're suspended. So
which site, which part is that on? Is that on the police department or on the city site? 'Cause
it just says Allen York Boat Park launch.
Okay, well,
pass.
I'll get a hold of the clerk and make sure
Yeah,
that she
it's kind
fixes
of
that. 'Cause
it's like a circle.
yeah,
and-
it's
and I-
supposed to be throughout the site, so I'm not sure if that's on the police department segment of it or the city segment of it, but I'll make sure that she updates
Okay.
that. Thank you.
It takes them in a do loop, and
Yeah.
we've seen the comments, they're frustrated, they don't know what to do.
Right,
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. So it's
Thank
already
you.
frustrating enough that we're
Yeah.
kind of halfway closing it and then just allowing for city only. The other question that I have is, I realize that in the past, we've only allowed Bonney Lake citizens to purchase the permits. However, this is a strange year. And we have people who live on Lake Tap or have a Lake Taps address and live
Who are not
closer
Bonney
to
Lake
Allen York
residents.
Park than somebody like me who lives in Sky Island. So, is it possible that we can expand the area as long as they have an address where they can park their boat trailer this year specifically, that we can sell the permits to anybody in the area so that they can launch their boats?
So as I shared with you
You
earlier
know?
this afternoon, that would take a code change, because the code change right now says we only sell them to city residents by proof of residence.
Okay,
So that would take action on behalf of the council to amend the
Yeah.
code.
And the resolution we passed last week, the way it was worded, it was still, so that would have to be undone, that be amended, and then do that all over again.
Could we do, instead of Bonney Lake city residents, could we do people that fall under the 98391 zip code?
Would still be a code amendment.
Oh, okay.
but
Yeah.
it's a vote.
I've heard the same
I mean,
issue.
you know,
Also,
it's a
I
vote.
think in response to your question, Angela,
Yeah,
I found out, excuse me, the county does have an annual pass for $100.
okay. I did see the email from
Dave Morrell's office.
yes. Okay.
But because since we don't have any parking at all, people are already going to go out of their way to make sure that they have a place to put their trailer and be responsible. And I think that we could reward that by changing the zip code for this year. I mean, if it's possible, I don't know if there's some kind of an issue with the restrictions that we had when we were given the boat launch.
No, I think Kathleen talked about that,
Yeah,
that
okay.
since it's a temporary thing, that we're fine with that.
Yeah,
If we restrict it the way it is now, just
Yeah.
to city residents, that
Yeah.
we're fine, since it's temporary.
yeah.
Certainly council's decision, if they want to open it up and change the code, that's
And
your
then-
decision.
I mean, we make more money on the passes, the yearly pass, if we can open it up to everybody in a 98391 zip code or
Pretty
whatever, but
nominal pass.
yeah,
30
it's 30 bucks.
32
Yeah, it
bucks
wasn't,
with tax.
The code
Not even-
revision
not
would
even
take
staff time
tens of
process.
thousands.
it takes tens of thousands of dollars to rewrite.
To do a code
That
revision, I would
particular
imagine,
code?
or
Why?
what's a code revision cost as far as staff time, legal, printing, updates?
It wouldn't be that much.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
Chief and Dina to do this, maybe took an hour apiece.
Oh, okay, so it's not as,
I don't know what it costs to codify it, I don't know.
okay.
Well, it would be a council vote. That doesn't take anything out of my paycheck. I'm all here. I'm here for the citizens
I'm not seeing that
until the
on
cows
any
come
consent
home.
agenda. Okay.
So anyway, that was my two questions. I was just concerned about that website and what the citizens are saying on these chats that I'm not on, but my friends are on that have boats. I don't have a boat, so it doesn't really affect me, but it does affect everybody else. And then also just seeing if it's possible to open it up, since this is a strange year and we're not going to let anybody do it. But I think,
Doesn't matter
hey,
to
if
us
they
who
have
launches
if
as long as they
they
don't
have
park.
parking, then I
It
say
doesn't matter to
because they're
us.
going to go out of their way to make arrangements. Sure.
Hopefully.
Yeah, well, I would think that they would, because then if we shut it down and we say, oh gosh, we're having a code change because too many people are violating and we've had to tow two cars or two trucks already, we're going to shut it down for a couple days, then they're all going to be going, oh no, we lost our passes. We better not tell it to our friends anymore. It's the secret that we don't talk about.
I love your optimism.
Councilmember Baldwin, you have any open
Yeah,
discussion?
it was in the finance committee discussion, but it was the packet for the grant. And I read through all of the materials in there. And there was something that was concerning to me, so I did have some questions for you, Dina. But it was in regards to the medical assisted treatment. I'm assuming, is that methadone and Suboxone, or?
So I'm happy to answer it. Should we wait till finance? 'Cause
She's not part of
I'm not in
finance.
Oh,
finance,
okay,
but it is
sorry.
a public safety issue.
Okay, yeah, no,
Yeah.
sorry, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Do we want to do the opioid thing first? Get that on here?
Are you talking about
No,
the?
That's
that's-
on finance.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
fine.
finance.
Yeah,
That's
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 this,
it.
yeah.
So, are you talking about the domestic violence grant or the opioid?
It was the opioid one.
Yeah, so they had a whole list of things that a city can spend that money on.
Yeah,
You're not required to spend it. I think that
Okay.
was on the list.
that is what I was
Their main
wondering.
thing, no offense, Ryan, is they don't want you spending it on fixing potholes
Oh,
or something
okay.
not related to.
Okay, come on. Ryan.
Offense
on.
Don't be
taken.
thinking, yeah, for opioid.
Yeah, no opioid medicine for the potholes.
We can fill them with the drugs we can't charge.
Thanks very much.
I was going to say
Nice
that, no
base.
pun intended on the potholes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what the stance was as far as, I know that I was reading through and a lot of it was just making me just go, oh, I don't like that.
There's a whole list of things that cities can spend it on, and I think there's,
Okay.
it could even be spent on. I mean, there's treatment, but then there's also just prosecution is
Okay.
another thing that it could be spent on.
Okay.
So, if there's the settlement reached and Bonney gets the 12% of the payout, then
Yes,
it would go to council or finance and then council how exactly that money is spent.
Okay.
So then council can, have their say. But there's a whole,
Okay.
it's a 12-page document with a whole bunch of different ways that it can
Oh,
be
yeah,
spent.
I read
So,
all of it.
yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, okay. And it even had some offerings for, I'm just trying to look, into the future to just see if these are things that are being considered, but also there was a suggestion on there for offering temporary housing. Is that also something that,
I mean, it's not required.
okay,
I mean, my understanding from the way the law firm that's suing the big three,
the pharmaceuticals?
yeah, pharmaceutical
Yeah.
companies, is that a city has, as long as you're somehow related to the opioid epidemic
Mhm.
issues, they're going to allow you to spend it. So it could even
Okay.
be, it could be law enforcement, it could be prosecution, it could be court services, it could even be. So I think there's going to be ways where I think it could be an expense that council feels comfortable with.
Okay, that sounds great. Thanks, Tina.
Nancy, for the good of the order, you got anything?
Well, I was excited, and I want to congratulate everybody for coming up with a solution that I think got people hopefully feeling a little bit better about the launch this year. So I want to clarify, so are you going to try to have it be broader than just, or?
I would like
I mean, that's
to
up-
put
up
that
to-
on,
It's up to the council.
can we put that
Yeah.
on a council agenda?
You can talk to
And-
Terry about it. He
Okay.
controls that.
And
For right now,
because-
it's just the citizen.
Yeah, right now, but I just feel like since this is such an odd year and we're coming out of COVID, I say, pat everybody on the back, give them a reward and let them get on the lake.
I live in the city and I don't have a boat, so I will sell my pass to a county resident for $100.
You can see the bargaining
99
that's
is
going
cheaper
on.
than
There's
a can.
Yeah, it needs to be
There's some
cheaper
people
than
who are
the
gonna
county.
queue out apparently their property, they're offering for people to park their trailers on. And we've heard everything from $30 a launch to
$30 an hour.
$80 a day, yeah.
Which lake is this?
Yeah, there's some people who have actual a launch on their property who are offering. She didn't have a boat, but she said she would do it for a trade of a boat ride. So there's a lot of bargaining going on right now. But the launch is closed right now? Is that right, Ryan?
Yes.
Launch is closed. And then, how are they gonna, and we could maybe talk on the other side too, but how are they gonna, they're gonna get a code?
Yes,
And
with
it's gonna-
with their
is it
pass.
Like an arm thingy, it's gonna go across?
No, it's just a padlock. It's pretty high tech. It's
Yeah,
just gonna
it's
have a
pretty
digital
basic.
code that
Yeah.
you put in there, and like I said, I'm sure it's
And
gonna
then what
be.
will happen when they do the code?
They pull the cable back away,
Oh,
they
the
launch
cable,
their
okay.
boat, then they put the cable back and lock it again. We'll send instructions with the code, with their pass, so they'll have all that when they apply for the code. And then we'll have their email address and phone numbers. We have a new ability to text people information, so we can create a boating page or an Allen York, so we can communicate either via email or via text if there's a change, either to the code or to the, if we have to shut the boat launch down for an event or something, we can communicate with folks that way too.
So what's the outreach plan? Because in the absence of information,
Oh, you should see what they're
Well,
saying.
I can imagine, it's social media and,
there's been nothing on Facebook, nothing on Twitter. So if there is an outreach plan, we haven't seen it.
And communicating with all of those, the maintenance companies, like the HOAs, because they're concerned about their launches being overwhelmed. And not only their launches being overwhelmed, but on our island, you have to have, pass to a code to get onto the launch, to launch at the common park. But then you also have to have a sticker in your car to park. So if someone can give them access to the launch, which is going to happen, we know it happens
Right.
already, they're going to park in our neighborhoods. So reaching out to them.
We're also looking at
Maybe I'm looking at the city administrator, reaching out to the communications person, there's 7 of them, and that information's available about communicating and helping them understand too, would be awesome.
There's also a coordinated effort now because of what's expected of all 7 of the maintenance companies that operate parks, contract for private security.
where's that expectation coming from?
From one of the maintenance companies that had a meeting with the other 7, talk about having security present at the parks.
Some of them, we already have some security, but it will be beefed up. There's an added cost for the groups because of that.
We did have an offer too of letting people park it behind Target. But I don't know if we need permits or anything like that. Since it is private property, it should be fine, but I don't know. I can't say because it wouldn't be part of the city. It would be a private citizen allowing people to park on properties.
As we've discussed
Yeah.
about that one, I mean,
Yeah.
it still would require permits, certainly as a private citizen.